The Nebraska Cornhuskers have found themselves the next Patrick Mahomes. And I'm not speaking in hyperbole here, because from his throwing mechanics to the way he walks, Dylan Raiola is an exact duplicate of Mahomes himself. And this is no mere coincidence, alright? Because Raiola has spent countless hours over these last few years really just studying the way that Mahomes carries himself, the way he acts on and off the field, in order to emulate even just a fraction of Mahomes' success. Not only at the collegiate level, but at the NFL level. I mean, if we take a look at Mahomes here in his very short NFL career, he's finished all there is to do in football. He's a 6-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, 3-time Super Bowl champion, and 2-time NFL MVP. And the awards don't just end there. And you have to remember, Mahomes is not even 30 years old yet. So of course, if you're the 3rd ranked prospect coming out of high school, you're gonna want the career that Mahomes has. And that's exactly what Dylan Raiola has planned for himself. Now the thing about Raiola is that he was bred for football. You see, not just anybody can be the next Patrick Mahomes. You also have to live up to his stature. I mean, currently, Mahomes is 6'2", 225 pounds, while Dylan Raiola is listed at 6'3", 220 pounds. Very similar builds. And like I said, football is in Raiola's blood. His father, longtime Detroit Lions center, Dominic Raiola. His godfather, the Matthew Stafford, the one that played on the Lions for 11 years and will probably go down as the franchise's greatest quarterback. And then, Matthew Stafford would go on to only cement his legacy in the NFL further by winning a Super Bowl with the Rams. And it doesn't stop there for Raiola, because his uncle, of all people, Donovan Raiola, is the current offensive line coach for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. One of the many reasons he chose to go to Nebraska. You see, because Raiola was the 3rd ranked prospect in his class, he could have gone anywhere. Hell, he was committed to Georgia before he ended up flipping to Nebraska of all schools. And the reason that Dylan Raiola chose Nebraska is actually pretty interesting. Dylan Raiola would go on to have an interview with ESPN where he would be quoted saying, "I firmly believe that Nebraska is in my blood. It's a great opportunity to be a part of something bigger than myself. Nebraska is a special place." And I would agree with Raiola if what he meant by special was absolutely boring. Because there ain't shit to do in Nebraska, I'll tell you that right now. I haven't been there, but I promise you, Nebraska is in the top 5 worst states. Alright, you see what really happened, the real reason that Raiola ended up in Nebraska, besides his uncle being a coach there, is that Matt Rule, 2nd-year coach for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, gave him an opportunity that many other schools weren't offering, especially Big 12 schools. And that was a real chance to earn the starting job his freshman year. And if you look at the roster, of course I would have Raiola as the starting QB. I wouldn't even have a competition because the other guys on the roster are just that bad. And of course Matt Rule is going to offer him an opportunity at the starting job because Rule himself has nothing to lose. You see, a few years ago, he signed on to be the Panthers head coach for $60 million. And then, of course, David Tepper, the crazy owner, the psycho owner that he is, fired him nearly 4 years early, and most of the money was guaranteed, so Matt Rule is still raking in millions from that Panthers gig, and he's currently in the 2nd year with the Cornhuskers, and after a pretty disappointing first year where the team went 5-7, Matt Rule is willing to do anything to have success in this NIL era of college football that we're in. And if you look at the rest of the roster, quarterback-wise, no one even competes with Rule. Of course, there's junior Heinrich Haarberg, who was the previous starting quarterback for the Nebraska Cornhuskers last year, but in the 10 games he started, he didn't look great at all. He only had 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions in 10 games with like a 49% completion percentage. Haarberg was definitely not keeping the job heading into this season, and the only other person that maybe would have gave Dylan Raiola a run for his money, at least for the starting gig this year, would be another incoming freshman in Daniel Kaler. So of course Raiola is going to get the job. It was named to him a little around a week ago, and with only a few days left until his debut happens, I'm more than thrilled to watch what Raiola is going to do to the UTEP Miners. That is his first game in his probably illustrious college career. I can't wait to watch Raiola for the next 3 to 4 years before he goes on to the NFL. I am putting all of my chips on the table the same way Matt Rule is, and I'm believing in this kid. The thing about Raiola is that he's been getting high praise for a while now. I mean, many scouts consider Raiola to have an NFL caliber arm, an imposing frame, and what it takes to be the centerpiece of an offense. He owns one of, if not the best deep balls in the cycle, and can touch every corner of the football field. He's lethal when operating out of play action and has taken valuable snaps under center, which is exactly what you want from a quarterback prospect. And it doesn't end there, because he moves better than what you would expect for a guy hovering around his size, and will frequently buy himself time as the pocket collapses. And his ability to drop the elbow and use a baseball-like angle to work around traffic is certainly mesmerizing. Some would even say Patrick Mahomes-esque. But it's not only that, okay? Because the things about Raiola only continue to pile on. You have to remember, his normal release is seen as just impressive, as he's able to mirror his upper and lower halves together with a fluid, repeatable motion that can generate a ton of velocity, enough to get the ball to the receiver's hands in a moment's notice. And these are the positives about Raiola. They're basically endless. I could go on and list even more. That's just how great Raiola is, and exactly why the Nebraska Cornhuskers should be excited that he's going to be starting for them. And we'll talk more about Dylan Raiola in a second, but for right now, I just wanted to slow the video down, remind you guys to not only like the video, but subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 5,000 subscribers, and every subscription is greatly appreciated. All right, now let's get back into the video. You see, the thing about Raiola is there's a reason he was ranked as the 3rd best prospect. And that's because in high school, this kid was electric, all right? You see, he had 3 years where he was on the varsity team. His sophomore season, the team goes 8-4. Junior year, they go 9-3. Senior year, he transfers to Buford, Georgia, of all schools, where the big dogs play. And he goes 11-2 with the team. If there's one thing about Raiola, it's that he is going to keep on improving. And in his time on varsity, well, he had 88 touchdowns. Yes, you heard me, 88. 8,442 passing yards, only 11 interceptions in all the games that Raiola played. And his completion percentage, well, of course, that's going to be high with the rest of his stats. He had a completion percentage of, I want to say, 64%. Raiola was that guy in high school. And I promise you, he's going to continue to be that guy in college, because in his debut spring game for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, well, Raiola went out and threw for 239 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 16 of 22 completions, absolutely torching up whatever opponent stood in Raiola's way. And you have to remember, the Nebraska Cornhuskers are coming off of a season in which they finished last in the Big Ten in passing yards with 1631 and interceptions all the way at 16. I mean, they had, I want to say, 3 different quarterbacks throughout all of last year, so they're just glad that they have some stability under center with Raiola now on the team. Anyway, that's about it for this video. Really just wanted to cover Raiola at Nebraska because I find it extremely interesting that out of all the schools Raiola could have gone to, he ends up under Matt Rule. And it also gives Matt Rule a chance to be in the spotlight again, because there was a moment there where Matt Rule covered the headlines with his hiring and firing in the Carolina Panthers organization. And then, of course, he lands a job in Nebraska, kind of goes unheard of for a little while, until they're able to land the biggest prospect in the last 20 years. In Dylan Raiola, of course. But anyway, like I said, that's about it for this video. I feel like I've chatted enough here. Catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces.